Right.
So let's do a recap for the people who have joined.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So I can do that for you since I have
yeah,
that in a blog.
right. Please go ahead, Sandeep.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to everyone who has joined us in our session today. Sandeep is going to do a quick recap of what we read last week and last time, rather, and we will go ahead with the reading. आप सबको पता है कि संदीप सर अभी रिट्रीट में हैं जयपुर में और वहीं से वो अपना सेशन कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं और बुक डिस्प्ले कर रहे हैं और मैं देहरादून से पढ़ रही हूँ आज. So it's quite a combination.
तो ये टीचर्स एकेडमी का ब्लॉग पेज है.
So
और
Sandeep, it is echoing.
या अच्छा हुआ. ये है रिफ्लेक्शन के अंदर.
हाँ,
आप पढ़ दीजिए.
मैं पढ़ लूं? ओके. मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि गलतियों से ही सीखने की शुरुआत होती है. जब छात्र कठिन समस्याओं को स्वयं हल करने की कोशिश करते हैं, तब वह कार्य को करते समय जो गलतियां होती हैं, असली में वही सीखने की शुरुआत होती है. हर कक्षा में कुछ छात्र ऐसे होते हैं जिन्हें असफल या लास्ट रैंकर्स कहा जाता है. लेकिन वास्तव में कोई भी छात्र असफल नहीं होता, बल्कि उसकी सीखने की क्षमता और तरीका अलग होता है. छात्रों को किसी भी प्रश्न का उत्तर बताने के बजाय उन्हें स्वयं से उत्तर खोजने के लिए कहना चाहिए. जब बच्चा स्वयं से एक्सपेरिमेंट करता है, तो वह उसे जीवन भर के लिए यादगार हो जाता है. परंपरागत शिक्षा प्रणाली में शिक्षक केवल अंकों और अनुशासन पर ध्यान देते हैं, जिससे कमजोर छात्र और निराश हो जाते हैं. लेकिन जब शिक्षक छात्रों को समझते हैं, उनकी रुचि और क्षमता के अनुसार पढ़ाते हैं, तब यही छात्र धीरे-धीरे उत्पादक या प्रोडक्टिव बन जाते हैं और उनके अंदर सभी स्किल भी डेवलपमेंट होते हैं, जो आगे चलकर करियर के चुनाव में भी सहायक होता है. छात्रों को कभी भी जज नहीं करना चाहिए, उन्हें फेल कहकर लेबल नहीं करना चाहिए. हर बच्चे को कोई न कोई खास प्रतिभा होती है. रुचि के अनुसार पढ़ाई, बच्चे की पसंद जैसे खेल, चित्रकारी, संगीत को पढ़ाई में से जोड़ना चाहिए. इससे पढ़ाई रोचक बनती है. इससे छात्र को आगे बढ़ने की प्रेरणा मिलती है. अच्छा शिक्षक छात्र संबंध डर के बजाय दोस्ती और सहयोग पर आधारित होना चाहिए. तभी छात्र खुलकर सीख पाता है. इस विषय से मुझे यह समझ आया कि असफलता छात्र की कमजोरी नहीं है. अगर शिक्षक और अभिभावक धैर्य और समझदारी से काम लें, तो हर छात्र आगे बढ़ सकता है. हमें केवल टॉपर छात्रों पर नहीं, बल्कि हर छात्र पर ध्यान देना चाहिए, क्योंकि आज का लास्ट रैंकर कल का सफल व्यक्ति बन सकता है. एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम का यह सुविचार कि गलतियां और असफलताएं ही सीखने की पहली सीढ़ी हैं, हमें अत्यंत प्रभावित करता है और बार बार अभ्यास करने से असफल भी सफल बन सकता है। जैसे कि ये दोहा कहता है, करत करत अभ्यास के जड़मति होत सुजान, सस ससर सॉरी रसरी आवत जात ते सिल पर परत निशान। ये मंजुला सागर जी का है, सनबीम ग्रामीण स्कूल से हैं मंजुला जी। बहुत अच्छा रिफ्लेक्शन है मंजुला जी, आपने एक सारांश हमें दे दिया कि पिछले क्लास में हमने क्या डिस्कस किया था और क्या पढ़ा था। और अभी हम जब चैप्टर शुरू करेंगे तो बाकी जो हमारे यहाँ पे सब उपस्थित हैं वो भी कनेक्ट कर पाएंगे कि पिछले जो सप्ताह में हमने किताब पढ़ी थी, लास्ट रैंकर में से जो चैप्टर पढ़ा था वो इसी बारे में बता रहा था कि जिन बच्चों ने अपने टेस्ट में या एग्जाम में अच्छा नहीं किया था, उनके साथ किस तरीके का व्यवहार हमें करना चाहिए। तो संदीप सर, हम अब आगे पढ़ सकते हैं किताब से। You're on mute, Sandeep. No, you're on mute. I think you need to switch on your mic.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So the echoes here if I speak like this.
Yeah.
So, this beautiful reflection,
Mm,
this has come post the last session.
that's right.
And why I want to highlight this, it has beautifully combined productive failure with what we
Yes,
are doing in wanted backbencher. That is the power of this
absolutely.
reflection.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if
yeah.
you remember last time, it was a
Mm,
productive failure session.
yes.
And I have to congratulate मंजुला सागर, अगर यहाँ पे हैं तो
Mm,
आपको उनको दाद देनी पड़ेगी, कैसे उन्होंने प्रीवियस
बिल्कुल.
वीक का सेशन और
Yeah,
उससे भी प्रीवियस वीक के सेशन को अपने रिफ्लेक्शन में रखा। तो
absolutely.
इसका ये मतलब है कि जब टीचर क्लास में पढ़ाती है,
Mm,
उसको कितनी दूर तक सोचना पड़ता है,
हाँ,
और उसने जो पिछले कुछ टाइम से बच्चों के साथ काम किया हो, उस सब का ख्याल रखते हुए ये सब बनाना पड़ता है। ठीक है।
बिल्कुल.
पिछली बार प्रोडक्टिव फेलियर था, तो इन्होंने असफलता को एक अपना वो समझा कि मैं इसके
Mm,
बारे में बोलूं। और उससे पहले हमारा टीचर्स एकेडमी के था, वो ये था
mm,
जो फोर्थ को हुआ था।
हाँ,
ठीक है। ये फोर्थ वाला भी हम पिछली बार पढ़ नहीं पाए थे,
हाँ,
क्योंकि पिछली बार हमने अपना वो एल्फ्रेड और
हाँ,
उनका
उनका
सेशन
वो प्रेजेंटेशन किया था प्रोडक्टिव फेलियर
किया
पे.
था। तो
हाँ,
अगर आपके पास सुनीता यहाँ है तो उनको बोलो ये पढ़ देंगी।
हाँ. सुनीता, आप हो यहाँ पे ग्रुप में? सुनीता त्रिपाठी जी, आप हैं सनबीम स्कूल से? There is no response.
और कोई पढ़ना चाहे?
जय हिंद सर।
हाँ सुनीता जी, आप पढ़ें।
मैं मंजुला हूँ सर। थैंक
मंजुला
यू
हैं आप? अच्छा, ठीक है।
जी।
और सुनीता त्रिपाठी है यहाँ पे सनबीम ग्रामीण स्कूल से?
मैम
She does.
मंजुला जी से पढ़वा लीजिए,
मंजुला जी,
मंजुला जी
पढ़ लीजिए आप प्लीज।
यस मैम, पढ़ती हूँ मैं। बच्चों की गलतियों पर चर्चा करें या ना करें, इस संदर्भ में एक छोटा सा लेख। बच्चों की गलतियों पर चर्चा तभी सही है जब उसका उद्देश्य सुधार और मार्गदर्शन हो। यह विचार एक शिक्षक वास्तविक कर्तव्य को दर्शाता है। एक शिक्षक केवल ज्ञान देने वाला नहीं बल्कि बच्चों के व्यक्तित्व को संवारने वाला मार्गदर्शक होता है। इसलिए जब भी बच्चे से कोई गलती होती है तो उसे एक अवसर की तरह देखना चाहिए, ना कि दोष के रूप में। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि शिक्षक संवेदनशील और गोपनीयता बनाए रखते हुए बच्चे को समझाए। इससे उसके अंदर सुधार की इच्छा आती है और वह बिना डर के अपनी कमियों को स्वीकार कर पाता है। इसके विपरीत यदि उसकी गलती को सार्वजनिक रूप से उजागर किया जाए तो उसके मन में डर, संकोच और हीन भावना उत्पन्न हो सकती है। सकारात्मक दृष्टिकोण अपनाने वाला शिक्षक बच्चों के मन में विश्वास और अपनापन पैदा करता है। यही विश्वास बच्चों को आगे बढ़ने और सीखने के लिए प्रेरित करता है। एक बच्चा स्कूल में शिक्षक पर विश्वास करता है। एक शिक्षक वही है जो बच्चे की गलती को छुपा कर नहीं, बल्कि समझदारी और संवेदनशीलता के साथ सुधारने का प्रयास करता है, ताकि बच्चा एक अच्छा और आत्मविश्वासी इंसान बन सके। कंप्लीट हो गया। हेलो।
थैंक यू मैम। वृंदा मैम, आप किताब पढ़ेंगी अब आगे? Two months ago. Yeah, start reading from there. 2 months.
All right. I was in 2 months. The 2 months for the results had been sheer torture. Roma had picked petals off wildflowers, chanting, pass, fail, pass, fail. When she went to school on results day, her heart had been beating like a jungle drum. It
Can you
wasn't
guess?
easy to pass a math exam then. There was no system of step marking wherein even if part of the calculation was correct, she would have got some marks. Sometimes she got most of the steps in algebra or geometry right, but miscalculated the final answer and got a zero, having struggling for 15 minutes. She remembered pushing through the crowd of her classmates holding their results. Some, as usual, had scored well, and shockingly, a handful of reasonably good students were weeping at compartmental results. They would have to retest in math. Five had not made it. Roma heard the headmistress call out, "You made it, Roma, with flying colors," while she had passed math and science. She would never have to solve those terror evoking sums ever again or learn the laws of physics and chemistry. She had jumped the most difficult hurdle, but she lived with the fact that she wasn't clever. She could never be as good as the smart students who easily learnt definitions and applied formulae in those gobbledygook like calculations. She had nightmares about angry faces telling her how useless she was. Now, Roma realized she had done well in these subjects where she had kind and understanding teachers. Was doing well in a subject connected to the teacher? There is a theory that when children receive stimulation, enrichment, reinforcement, and the opportunity to learn without anxiety, the brain builds additional neural circuits leading to a richly functioning brain. In the past, it was assumed that human emotions had no place in the learning process. However, research has since revealed that emotions dictate attention, which impacts academic performance. It is biologically impossible to learn something to which the brain has not paid attention. And this affirmative stimulation, enrichment, and reinforcement can only be delivered through sensitive teaching. So I would like teachers to focus on this. कुछ लाइंस हमने हाईलाइट किए हुए हैं which talks about the science of the process of learning and how with time things change. आजकल ये रिसर्च में पाया गया है कि हमारा जो ब्रेन है इसमें ऐसे न्यूरॉन्स है जो इलास्टिक की तरह हैं, जो हमारे ग्रोथ के साथ बढ़ते जाते हैं, न्यूरोप्लास्टिसिटी। सो ये जो इस कारण से हमारा ब्रेन एक्सपैंड करता रहता है और हमें अलग अलग तरीकों से भी सीखने के लिए मजबूर करता है। सो रिसर्च हैज सिंस रिवील्ड that even emotions dictate attention. अगर कोई बच्चा अटेंशन नहीं पे कर रहा है किसी भी चीज पे, तो ये भी हो सकता है कि वो इमोशनली इन्वॉल्व्ड नहीं है। तो यहाँ पे इमोशन का ये रोल है कि जब टीचर अच्छी तरह से पढ़ाती हैं, केवल वो काफी नहीं है, उनको एक अपना इमोशन भी इस तरह से कंट्रोल करना पड़ेगा कि बच्चे उनके साथ इमोशनली भी कनेक्ट कर सकें, सब्जेक्ट के साथ इमोशनली कनेक्ट कर सकें, और फिर उनका अटेंशन ज्यादा रहेगा, तो उनका जो इनटेक होगा, उनकी जो पढ़ने की क्षमता होगी या पढ़ाई जिस तरह से वो करेंगे, वो और भी बढ़ेगा। So let's carry on with that. Moreover, the human research manager at Arctic Air had told the staff during training that if they really wanted to learn how the organization worked, they would have to do it from the grassroots level. Grassroots level यानी बिल्कुल ही lower स्तर से, lower strata से. Grassroots meant over here the class 3 staff who had only basic qualifications and would normally never rise to the level to teach. The trainees had to go down to class 3 level to learn from them. It was all about making the right connection. It was about hardwiring interpersonal skills. All right. So, teachers, please pay attention to this one phrase, interpersonal skills. We'll be reading about it again and again. H. Richard Milner, in his 5 easy ways to connect with students, discusses how building relationships with students is about meeting them where they are, understanding and developing connections with them. This requires teachers willing to find what is good and worthy in students. Increased positive social interactions foster both learning and remembering. How this works scientifically is best explained in the research papers of Kenneth Wesson, who throws light on how the release of endorphins, the feel good neurotransmitters, counteract the neurophysiological impact of stress and fear. Favorable social interactions such as encouragement or compliments and smiles from parents and teachers can elevate the level of endorphins and lead to more favorable learning and behavior. When children lack active, healthy social encounters at home and in school, their brains do not wire properly in the emotional centers. The physical development of the cerebral cortex is reduced by as much as 20%, Uttara told Roma the day she had discussed the results of her class and asked for suggestions. So, teachers, even if you don't pay to all the technical scientific terms here, I think it's very important for us to understand that development of what we today popularly known as SQ and EQ is very important, social quotient and emotional quotient, which means that children have to be socially intelligent, they have to be emotionally intelligent, and when both these things happen together, then their learning becomes better. So, this is what research has said. And we talked about how the effects of this research can be actually seen. If you read those 2 paragraphs again for yourselves, you will notice a lot of input that is given in this in scientific terms is actually visible to us in the classroom. हम इन सारी चीज़ों को बच्चों में देख पाते हैं कि जो बच्चा एक अच्छे सोशल सेफ फैमिली बैकग्राउंड से आता है, उसका इमोशनल लेवल भी हाई होता है, वो लोगों के साथ आसानी से एडजस्ट कर पाता है, आसानी से टीचर के साथ और बच्चों के साथ, अपने सहपाठियों के साथ अच्छा रिलेशनशिप बनाना चाहता है, और इस वजह से उसके जो पढ़ने की क्षमता होती है वो भी एक अच्छे लेवल पे होती है। लेकिन अगर कोई भी बच्चा एक डिस्टर्ब्ड बैकग्राउंड से आता है, एक डिस्टर्ब्ड इमोशनल बैकग्राउंड से आता है, तो नेचुरली उसका अटेंशन भी अफेक्ट करेगा उसका, और उसका जो रिटेन करने की या अंडरस्टैंड या क्लास में पढ़ाई पर ध्यान देने की क्षमता भी कम हो जाएगी। तो इन सारी बातों को एज टीचर्स वी हैव टू कीप ऑल दिस इन माइंड। और अगर हम अभी अपने जो नया एनईपी आया है या एनसीएफ जिसे कहते हैं, नेशनल करिकुलम फ्रेमवर्क में भी देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ स्ट्रेस on trying to build in emotional and social quotient and mental wellness पे बहुत ज़्यादा स्ट्रेस दिया गया है। तो ये बिल्कुल ही आवश्यक है कि हम टीचर्स इन बातों को साइंटिफिकली समझें और फिर प्रैक्टिकली क्लास में इनका प्रयोग करें। Roma knew her class was terrified of Ria, Sumita, and Ranjita, their math and science teachers. She would have to find a way to get plenty of neurotransmitters to counteract the stress and fear. The first step was to make the class love her as their teacher, because love has the power to achieve the impossible. She had understood in the last 4 weeks that if students cared for their teacher, they tried not to do anything wrong. They open up and share their anxieties. They discuss their problems. She didn't want another Roma in her class, so she made it a point never to sit when she taught. Sometimes she leaned against the desk and talked about things other than studies: politics, cricket, soccer, the budget, inflation, leaking taps, pollution, an abandoned puppy, or a burnt lunch. I cut the strap of my father's laptop bag because he did not keep his promise to buy me Nike shoes. I kept my promise to get 80% in math, so why couldn't he? Alok told Roma one day, leaving her shocked. तो देखें, ऐसे प्रॉब्लम्स घर में होते हैं और बच्चे इनको अपने मन में रखते हैं, रिजेंट करते हैं, और ऐसे बच्चे फिर हमारे लिए क्लास में प्रॉब्लम नहीं होंगे तो क्या होंगे? अगर रोमा जैसी टीचर हो जो बच्चों के साथ पढ़ाई के अलावा बाकी भी बातें डिस्कस करती है, तो बच्चों को एक माहौल मिलता है अपनी मन की भी बात टीचर के साथ शेयर करने का। पर हमेशा याद रखें, हमने पिछले कुछ सेशंस में भी ये बात कही थी कि आप बच्चे के साथ फ्रेंडली टर्म्स पे रह सकते हैं, लेकिन कभी उनके दोस्त नहीं बन सकते हैं उन्हीं के स्तर पे। ये बात हमेशा ध्यान में रखिएगा। Alok told Roma one day, leaving her shocked. She shuddered at the extent to which these kids could go when upset or disappointed. She told him it had been wrong, but the class had laughed, sharing other such incidents. Roma made newspaper reading mandatory in class. Her English class would begin with an exciting discussion of news, some new words to add to their vocabulary, or a crossword. How can morning and moaning be homophones? They don't sound the same, Simi had asked in the English class, pointing at a list of homophones in the newspaper. The class forgot all about the lesson from the textbook and began an interesting and excited discussion on Indian and international accents and homophones. Also, the students began looking forward to English and social science classes. अब देखिए रोमा के पढ़ाने की पद्धति, वो टेक्स्ट बुक के सहारे से नहीं पढ़ा रही थी। उन्होंने एक मेथड डेवलप किया था, जब न्यूज़पेपर रोज पढ़ने को बच्चों से बोलती थी और उसको अपने लेसन के साथ कनेक्ट करती थी। तो जैसे कोई वोकैबुलरी एनहांसमेंट के लिए ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप आपके टेक्स्ट बुक से ही वर्ड्स लेके उन्हीं शब्दों को बच्चों को कहेंगे पढ़ने के लिए, लेकिन हम अपने न्यूज़पेपर से, किसी मैगज़ीन से, कहीं से भी कई सारे शब्द हम ले सकते हैं और वोकैबुलरी का एनहांसमेंट हो सकता है। और इसी तरह से कई करंट इवेंट्स के साथ हम अपने सब्जेक्ट का कनेक्शन भी कर सकते हैं। तो यहाँ पे डिस्कशन हो रहा है होमोफोन्स का। होमोफोन का मतलब है वो शब्द जो जिनका जो उच्चारण या जो जब बोलते हैं हम एक ही तरीके का साउंड आता है, लेकिन उनके स्पेलिंग और उनके जो अर्थ होते हैं वो अलग होते हैं। तो रोमा ने इस तरह से क्लास में इंटरेस्ट बढ़ाया, तो धीरे-धीरे इंग्लिश और सोशल साइंस बच्चों का फेवरेट सब्जेक्ट बन गया। Roma sometimes sat beside the student when explaining something important or cracked silly jokes during a monotonous chapter. One day, quite surprisingly, she understood how much a teacher touched a child's life beyond textbooks, tests, and assignments. She had been teaching how hygiene and a balanced diet are important for good health to the sixth graders. She had hated milk and vegetables. बच्चे को पता लगता है तो उसको लगता है कि ये मेरा जो प्रॉब्लम है ये स्टाफ रूम में गॉसिप का मैटर हो गया है और टीचर्स को ये इसलिए टीचर शायद डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि उनको सिर्फ मज़ा आ रहा है कि मेरा प्रॉब्लम डिस्कस करने में, ना कि मेरे प्रॉब्लम का सॉल्यूशन करने के लिए। तो टीचर्स का जो रोल यहाँ पे है, इट इज़ वेरी वेरी critical, it is very very delicate, and we have to be very sensitive when dealing with such issues. And we will see as we read the book, हम और भी instances देखेंगे जहाँ पे हम देखेंगे the insensitivity of a teacher. So how important, see, teaching is not about just being very good with your content knowledge. Teaching is much more than, कोई टीचर अपना कंटेंट कुछ कम समझ कर भी अच्छा टीचर बन सकता है अगर वो अपने बच्चों को समझ सकता है और अपने बच्चों के लिए कुछ कर सकता है, he reaches out to the children, affects the children emotionally also, then the teacher becomes a really valuable teacher, right? So yes, Sandeep, you're back. We had lost connection, so we thought we will do
Yeah,
a,
I was thrown out.
yeah, I know. So we did a little bit of a discussion. So we have another 10 minutes, I suppose.
Let's
Five
try
minutes.
and finish the chapter.
Yeah, we'll try and finish the chapter. Roma sometimes sat beside the student when explaining something important or cracked silly jokes during a monotonous chapter. One day, quite surprisingly, she understood how much a teacher touched a child's life beyond textbooks, tests, and assignments. She had been teaching how hygiene and a balanced diet are important for good health to the sixth graders. She had hated milk and vegetables as a young girl and could sympathize when the kids stuck out their tongues at the mention of spinach, which Sophie described as sludge and muck, and French beans as garden snakes. Little did Roma realize how much they believed her when she told them stories of vegetables as different kinds of specialists helping the body become. Oh, we finished this. A week
Yeah, I
ago,
just doing a replay. Huh? Carry
all
on.
right. A week ago, an old lady had introduced herself as Sophie's grandmother. She told Roma that Sophie had lost her mother when she was a baby, and it was a challenge to bring her up to bring up such an energetic kid all by herself. She said she wanted to thank Roma for something special. When Roma had said she didn't need to be thanked for teaching her granddaughter, the lady had reached out to hold her wrist with a frail and trembling hand. Roma could see the blue green veins through the translucent skin. I'm not thanking you for teaching Sophie from the textbook, dear. I'm thanking you because my granddaughter now eats vegetables, she said with a smile. She told Roma she had been trying to make Sophie eat vegetables for years, but the pixie like little girl had refused to listen. Carrots and beans were often found hidden beneath the cushions, below mats, or behind the cupboards. Last month, she had found baby carrots and celery in the balcony behind the flower pots. When she cleaned the fish tank, there were rotten beans amidst the plants. Roma smiled as she guiltily recalled the numerous glasses of milk she had emptied, sometimes into the fish pond and sometimes into the dosa batter. Now, Sophie says she has to tell you every day which vegetable she has had. She see how much power you teachers have over these kids. Bless you for helping an old grandmother like me. Roma could hardly believe the kids were taking her words so seriously. She felt truly humble. Wonderful sentence there, which the grandmother used. That should become a sentence that we actually underline and pin because she talks about how much influence and how seriously the children take. She says, see how much power you teachers have over kids. Bless you for helping an old grandmother like me. All right, so we must keep the sentence in mind that that's the kind of influence we have over children. Okay? Yes, Sandeep, please. Once she came in as a substitute for her class when Reshma was on leave. When she walked in, some of the students were competing to break the class record for solving the Rubik Cube. As they tried to hide the cubes in desks and bags, she smilingly asked them to continue the competition and sat beside Shreyas, who was working like an expert, twisting and turning the sides with practiced dexterity. She had always thought the cube was solved by trial and error and random moves. Finally, led the frustrated player to some order after struggling for hours. Suddenly, Shreyas pumped his fist in the air and called 37 seconds. Roma's eyes nearly popped out. She had asked him to explain how it was possible to solve this exasperating game so quickly and effortlessly. She watched him raptly. His face was rigid with deliberation, his eyes intensely focused on every move. They were not random moves. Each one was thoughtfully planned and considered with proficiency and skill. His fingers moved fast and furious. Mercy. How on earth had he learnt to do that? Shreyas explained to Roma that he had used algorithms to solve the cube. He taught her for 10 minutes how a set of three moves accomplished a specific function. He also told her about move notation, the fish, and the H patterns. At the end of the detailed and proficient elucidation, Roma thanked her young teacher. She had understood nothing except that a child who failed his math exam could actually apply algorithms to solve the Rubik Cube. An algorithm was a procedure or a formula for solving a problem in mathematics and computer science. Roma took many of her classes under the shade of the oak tree on the lawn behind the main school building. Sitting on the green grass in a circle, they read the lesson and animatedly discussed the characters and situation in the story. There was an extract from the novel To Serve with Love in their textbook, and Roma promised if they have no reason to be upset for a week, she would show them the movie. They kept their promise and Roma hers. She had decided there was no point in extracting long term promises from them. She would take things a week at a time. Everyone enjoyed the film. Roma cried discreetly when Sidney Poitier reformed his class, tore up his appointment letter to a posh school, and decided to remain. The class clapped loudly. Roma secretly watched Ajit and Jeevan, who had watched the movie without causing any disturbance. In fact, they hadn't moved from their seats. The bonding was complete. Next was time for rectification. Roma's second strategy was to get the entire file of wagons into the right track. She decided to implement the buddy system. She had learned that the most mischievous ones had razor sharp brains. Not using that resource was like wasting power that could be harnessed to make electricity. She wanted to harness that high voltage intelligence to benefit low voltage terrains. Ajit was good at science, Jeevan was a math prodigy, Patricia had lived in France and spoke French well. Rakhi and Sri Karma were good at social science. Teaching others has been scientifically proven to be a successful mode of learning and retaining information. I'm sure all of you would agree with this. When you teach, you learn better. So, teaching is definitely one of the most successful modes of learning. Please remember this, teachers. Roma thought of applying this in her class. She was willing to use any strategy as long as it worked. A child who was good in a subject was made to tutor someone who was struggling every day before school. This was a 3 week project for the class. Rewards were promised. Those students who were teachers for those who for those 3 weeks earned bonus marks, and the class would get additional free time if the assignments were submitted in all the subjects on time. After the first 2 days, Jeevan said, Miss Roma, Shreyas is not able to do trigonometry because his foundation is weak. He needs to brush up his no, his basic math skills. I will make him practice algebraic manipulation. It is a basic skill necessary in any branch of mathematics. If Shreyas can come 20 minutes earlier, I can help him. 2 weeks later, when Reshma told her that everyone had submitted their assignments and practical logbooks, Roma saw the first sign of improvement. Roma, Shreyas, Anthony, and Simi passed the surprise math test I gave them. Although the marks are borderline, I think it's just magic. I couldn't believe I was marking their papers, Ria said, quite stunned by the drastic improvement. As Roma monitored the class, the transition was slow but evident. She no longer had to remind the buddies to take on their responsibilities. The little teachers worked hard for their bonus marks and free time, while their students worked hard so that their classmates would not scold them for silly and careless mistakes. The midterms were approaching, and Roma crossed her fingers. This time could tell if the strategies had worked. So, I think one important assignment that we all need to do is to note down all the things that we have seen as strategies in the chapter. And before we end, there's something that has been highlighted here at the end. A successful teacher is one who can empathize with struggling students and is also one who has struggled and endeavored to excel. One who is willing to walk the extra mile to imbue the students the skill to scrap, survive, and succeed. A skill that is not learned from textbooks but from experience. What a wonderful statement and what a wonderful chapter. So, we finished with the third chapter.
Brinda, you're on mute.
So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've just finished with a chapter which has a lot of value for teachers, and I think our reflection should reflect this. When we reflect on this chapter, we should be able to come out with all the values that we have picked up from here and the strategies also. So that should be what we should do next. Is there any
Thank you.
question? Is there any question? Teachers, आप में से कोई भी कुछ भी पूछना चाहता है?
Anyone in this room wants to ask a question? No, there's no question, Linda.
No
So
question. Okay, right.
we will bookmark the chapter for next Saturday, 3 p.m.
Right.
I've just taken a shot of it. It is chapter 4, so that's not
Yeah,
difficult to
that's
remember.
right. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's lovely. You want to have a look at the class?
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. You can do that. You can put on the video and show you.
Yeah.
Can you change the view, Varun sir? Just change the view from spotlight from me to the side class. He's just changing it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's us.
I can't see.
No, you have to change the view to a different camera. It'll be in the camera window.
Oh. Uh.
It's there. So I'll tell you who the participant is. The participant is BenQ. I'll rename them. So you will read Happy Teachers as a name
Okay.
on the screen.
Right.
That's us. Can you see us now?
Not really. Maybe because I'm on a.
No, on your mobile phone, just slide the screen and you will see a different speaker. Like you
Okay.
can see me, you can see
Oh,
the
yes, I
crowd.
can see them. I can see
Yeah.
them. Hi, class. Hello, everybody. We are at the end of this class. I hope you all enjoyed part of the book. Some of you may have heard and read the book, but for most of you, it would be new.
Just give 2 lines about the book. What is the book we are reading and why
Okay,
we are reading?
so the book is Wanted Last, sorry,
Wanted backbencher.
Backbencher, Last Ranker Teacher. And this is a true story written by a lady called Kavita Bhupata Ghosh. And she has written about how a lady from a non teaching background decides to become a teacher and how she lends value to the teaching community with all that she experiences in a school. And very fortunately for her, she finds a school which had advertised in a very unconventional manner asking for a teacher. So this line, which is the title of the book, was almost part of the advertisement that the school had brought out asking for a teacher. So you can very well imagine, if a teacher has not been a top ranker, but it has been a teacher who has done all kinds of things that children do in school, and she decides to be a teacher, how well she will understand children. So that was the motive behind that advertisement and behind taking her. And as we read the book, we discover that how right the management was in taking a teacher like this, who, in her unconventional way, was able to contribute enormously to the school and to the students who were her special students, right? So, if you're curious to know more about her and about the book, you should actually read the book, even if you're students and not teachers. Teachers certainly should read the book. Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep. Good. Have great fun in the rest of the retreat. See you. Bye bye, everybody, all the participants.